I'm Matt Carey, documentary editor at Deadline.com. For attendees who are blind or of low vision, I am a middle-aged white man with brown hair, wearing some blue-framed glasses, a white-collared shirt, and my background is a sort of red, almost burgundy wall. And it's my great pleasure to introduce the directors of The Brink of Dreams, Ayman El Amir and Nada Riyadh. It's wonderful to have you with us.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
And I will allow you, if you don't mind, to also introduce yourselves for our attendees who are blind or of low vision.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Nada Riyadh. I have big curly hair. I'm wearing a turquoise shirt. I'm Egyptian, and next to me is Ayman. Care to describe?
So yeah, I am Ayman El Amir's director of The Brink of Dreams. I'm Egyptian with dark toned skin and glasses, and I'm sitting in my office with a background of a window and curtains.
Mhm. This is such a remarkably intimate film, and I wanted to initially ask about how you heard about this theater company, and I understand that you were working with the Feminist Institute in Cairo, and that sort of eventually led to your meeting or finding out about these young women.
Yeah, we were collaborating a lot with a Cairo-based feminist institute that supports women in the arts in remote areas. So we both would travel through the South a lot. And we first met the troupe in 2016. They were performing in a nearby village, and we were breathtaken by the performance and super excited about how much energy and creativity these young women had. And we stayed in touch over the years. Whenever we were in a nearby village, we would pass and we would check on how they were doing. And eventually in 2018, they asked us to screen our first documentary in the village. So we both went and screened Happily Ever After there. And the interaction was really, really strong. They had so many questions about cinema. And I think by that time, we already knew that we also were very curious about them, and we wanted to make a film together.
Ayman, maybe you can talk about your initial impressions of seeing them. It's so striking to see them perform in the streets. What were your initial impressions of the work that they do?
I think for the first moment that I saw them, I'm feeling that I'm witnessing a miracle because
Mm,
you're very young and you are living in an area that is somehow referred to in Egypt as a forgotten place or the forgotten territory because it has a
mm,
very, for instance, it has the lowest rate of women land ownership in the whole world, less than 2%. And women are rarely actually allowed to have an active role in the public spaces. And to see young women who are performing and not just performing, they are all of their performances are about something that are deeply personal for them, like the importance of education, the
mm.
early marriage, domestic violence, all of those very, very important topics that are also very rooted in traditions there. I think, and we're very critical about that. And their performances are very interactive in the sense that they are actually confronting the audience and they are asking them questions. And the answers of the audience and their reaction are not always pleasant or not always positive, but actually they
Mm.
very persistent. And that was my very first reaction, how they can do that. Who are those young women and what are their point of views? And actually, that's how we started because in the beginning we decided together to have a writing workshop so they have the time to write about themselves, about their families, about the village. So that's how actually we knew about them more, and then they started to introduce us to their families, to introduce to get us visiting their homes, visiting the village. And we found that we are involved in a world that we are very, very connected to, and we want to make a film about this village and about the girls, because for us also it's somehow a microcosm of the whole Egyptian society.
Indeed. Well, it's so fascinating how engrossed I think the audience becomes. I certainly was in their lives, and I just, that's a major, perhaps the most essential task for documentary filmmakers is establishing a rapport and a trust with whoever you are filming. Here you do that to such a remarkable degree because it becomes, again, such an intimate experience in their lives. I wondered, how you were able to establish that relationship and trust over time.
Yeah, it was, I think it's, the key word is time. You just said it. Spending a lot of time. And I think it's also having common grounds and making the filmmaking experience something that both the protagonists and the filmmakers are invested in. Right after, right before that writing workshop, we had a discussion with the girls and their families about, we want to make a film about your life, and what would you like us to help you with, or how can you use the filmmaking process itself. And what they said was that they wanted to build their capacities as artists. So if we could help them by providing music instructors or theater instructors, that will also be beneficial. So that's what we did. We kind of designed a long program for them, for them to meet and work with other artists. And this also kind of gave us a space to get to know them and also explore how the feel and look of the film is going to be. And during that time, we got very connected to their families. And yeah, in time, it became very easy for us to shoot anywhere in the village. Like, we were no longer strangers, like we were no longer disrupting the day-to-day life. No one had any more questions. What are these two couples doing here?
Well, I wonder about, you're a married couple and filmmakers, and I wonder, to the degree you could sense how you were perhaps influencing these young women by providing a different model of what male-female, partnership and romantic partnership can be like.
Yes, I think at some point in the development stage, because we were trying to explore our cinematic style and vision, and in the beginning we were doing some interviews as part of the research with the girls, but we did that actually in a different way. So the rule is that if we ask you a question, to any one of the girls, that this girl has the right to ask us also a question. So actually, we were very curious about our relationship, and we were very curious about our marriage. And actually, it helps us also to know and to understand our mutual or our common interests and what they are looking for in life, and also what is common between us. I think that was very, very important for us also to understand why also we are personally very invested in making this film and to spend those very long years with them in the village.
Yeah, and you mentioned that one of the earlier films that you made where you were the protagonists of your own film. So certainly you know what it's like to be on camera in this way, or to have your lives documented. I would imagine that helped you understand them as people who are, willing to be vulnerable enough to share what they're going through, share their emotions, which is how a film becomes powerful and personal for the audience.
Yes, and also there are, as I said, there are many common things between us. For instance, both of us are not from the capital. So we moved to Cairo to be able to work as professional artists. And also we started our lives actually in completely different fields. So I started as a physician, Nada started as an engineer, and we decided to move to make that career shift to be filmmaker. And it was not easy. We have also to confront the families, the friends, to convince them of what we are doing. And actually, that's another common thing between us and the girls. So for us, somehow, for us, I think it was like a cathartic experience, seeing our young selves again and explore our teenager time somehow.
There's so many remarkable scenes that are just, I don't know, they just seared into me. One of them is towards the end of the film, fairly close to the end of the film. This is Heidi has become engaged, and then we see that her fiance doesn't want her to continue working in the theater troupe. And there's the scene with Heidi and her father, who seems very empathetic, and he's really trying to find out, like, hey, what is going on? Why have you suddenly stopped acting when it was really important to you? It's an amazing scene, I think. But I was sort of curious, you as filmmakers, did you have to restrain yourselves from, like, you want maybe wanting to tell the father, no, 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 it really is the fiance who's kind of demanding that she not continue.
Actually, it was the other way around for us. It's
Oh,
so hard to shoot Heidi and her fiance, and to shoot that period in her life where she is withdrawing and running away from everything she actually desires. It was very hard to restrain ourselves and to tell ourselves that we cannot interfere in her life and decisions. And her friend group, the troupe, her father, everyone was kind of trying to open up her eyes, but she was at a period completely decisive. And but however, I think like that's cameras sometimes give people agency. So in that particular scene with the father, it was actually the father who called us that day and told us, could you come and shoot? I have something that I want to tell Heidi, but I don't know how to talk to her. And I think there I can do it. So yeah, I think sometimes the camera allows people to be what they want to be. And
I found it interesting that there are a lot of woven throughout the film are definitely periodic shots, if you will, that establish this village of Barsha, and that there's animals around. So we see shots of the goats, we see the black cat and the birds, and that definitely does establish the milieu. But I wonder if there wasn't perhaps another meaning to that. I found myself thinking it's almost a commentary on the oddity of human culture. Like, if you see these goats, the goats aren't telling him, you need to act this way. You go there, there, maybe there is such a thing as goat culture, but maybe I'm reading too much into it. But I thought it was very interesting, the use of these shots, incorporating those of animals into the film.
Uh, I think since it's a village, I think also the I think it's we were very connected to what we are seeing, and we are trying to express. Also sometimes we are trying to see the world from the point of views of the girls themselves, and that's their circumstances, that's where they are living, and we were trying to be there with them, and we are trying to feel also intimate with their surroundings and want the audience to feel the same. And that's why also we have some those shots with the animals, but also in some other shots, I think for us also we want to express that time is passing by in some other scenes, because we are living 4 years with the girls. And I think one of the main antagonists for in this film is the time, because as they grow up, actually they have more obstacles, and now they have to belong more to the community and to work according to the rules and traditions. So time is very important factor in this film.
Absolutely. And was wondering about the universality of the film. You have been able to screen it in a number of places. It's both very specific to a place, but also I think who can't identify with that transition from the extraordinary possibilities one imagines as a child and then as a young adult, and then it's sort of like the walls are collapsing a little bit. So have you found that in sharing the film with other audiences, for instance, in France at the Cannes Film Festival or elsewhere, that they really do identify with that sense of what kids everywhere go through, or young adults?
Yeah, I think the reception in Cannes specifically was quite amazing. Like, because we also had our protagonists there, and I think it was a very moving experience for them to see themselves on a big screen, but also to see how people really, really connected to their story and understood it on a deep level. And I think the girls and we all had such deep conversations with a lot of people right after the screening, and they were relating even from their own experiences. Like Julie Gaillet, for instance, the French actress, she was speaking about how much her brother used to put her down, or didn't really celebrate the fact that she wanted to be an actress. And that's what happens with one of our protagonists, Magda. So it's really so much that I think people who want to practice art.
Yeah, but I think it's not only about people who are practicing art. I think it's all of us at certain time in our lives have that kind of internal conflict. We are trying to live authentically or trying to be different, but at the same time we want to belong to a community, or we want to somehow to work according or live according to tradition. So this conflict, actually, I think it's one of those things that all of the human beings in different cultures can feel.
At Cannes, where you held your world premiere, you won the L'Oeil d'Or Prize. You shared that with a film directed by Raoul Peck, Ernest Cole, Lost and Found. So this is an extraordinary honor that the L'Oeil d'Or Prize goes to the best documentary in the Cannes Film Festival. And, curious about what that meant to you to be embraced in that way.
Yeah, it was really, really surprising for me, at least. And but it was amazing. Like, I think it also meant a lot more for the girls. Like, we weren't expecting any prizes, but they were really confident that we're gonna get a prize, and it was, yeah, special to kind of call them and give them the news. They had already come back to Cairo, and it was quite celebrated in the village. Like, it was an all-night celebration for the entire village because the film won L'Oeil d'Or, and that was, I think, very special for me.
Yeah, but I think it gives also some kind of agency to be able to present the film also to the Egyptian audience, and gives also some kind of exposure that we needed back then. Because I have to say also recently in the last years, most of the Egyptian mainstream media and films actually are taking place in spacious apartments in gated communities about people who are belonging to a very high socioeconomic status. And they don't represent more than 10% of the Egyptian population. And it's very rare to see those girls on big screen. And it's very rare to see actually Copts, who are the biggest minority of Egypt, on big screen. So I think it's, for the girls, it's one of their basic human rights to see themselves on screen. And I think somehow also that kind of representation is a resistance. And we need that at this moment.
Yeah, you mentioned the setting that this is a Coptic Christian community. And it's interesting, in talking about the L'Oeil d'Or Prize, the previous year, it was shared by two films from the Arab world, Four Daughters, which is from Tunisia, and The Mother of All Lies from Morocco. But here you're looking at a Christian Coptic community that, again, is, for people in this part of the world, they're not often exposed to any sort of stories or media, certainly positive media depictions. But I doubt many people in the audience have ever gotten a glimpse into that part of the world, they probably don't know that there's such a thing as a Christian Coptic community in Egypt, but it is very large. It's substantial.
Yes, yes, and as you said, it's very rare to see their daily lives on screen,
Mm,
and that's also why this film also is also important for us. That also to see not to see the difference, actually to see the common thing.
mhm,
That's very, very important.
mm,
Yeah, I think like we're also like very excited to have the Egyptian theatrical release of the film in November. And I think one of the challenges, but it's also one of the most meaningful thing for us, is that this will be the very first film starring young Coptic women to ever be theatrically released. And I think yeah, it's a much needed experience to have that in cinemas and to have people look up to
mm.
the screens and to the billboards and see people who are familiar, not only A-class people.
Mm, mhm. Yes, I'm going to be so fascinated to hear what the response is like in Egypt and how that varies or doesn't vary from other places around the world where you've screened. We get a sense, in a way, of the potential reaction with those scenes where the theater company is performing in the streets. I was fascinated to see both who was there and their reaction to these performances, at least as you convey in the documentary. I mean, you've got an incredible range of ages. You've got small kids, relatively small kids, and definitely adults and older people. And they seemed absolutely riveted by the performance, but also that the actors, the young actors, are challenging the audience. I found that just so fascinating to see. This is not, by and large, is not the tradition of theater, certainly in the US and say the English-speaking world. So it's a very interactive form of
Yes.
theater.
Yes, and for us also it raises the question of what is art actually,
Mm,
because actually those young women actually don't have any kind of formal education of theater. So they learn from their experiences, from their cultural heritage, from their cultural contexts, but actually, and they are trying to learn through internet or whatsoever. But actually, the result is a very honest work, and this honest work actually is changing their society. So actually,
mm,
that's a question that we want to raise in the film about the role of art in such kind of patriarchal societies.
mm. And
Yeah,
so
when
you think,
sorry.
no, please go ahead.
I think for what is very special about them is that their art is kind of based on a necessity. They
Mm,
come together and they want to take charge of their own lives. They want to feel free to do what they please and to have a different life. And I think that that togetherness kind of creates a necessity to do something, act and kind of interact with the community, not just keep it to themselves at home. And yeah, and I think that's what, yeah, it's both fascinating and completely powerful to witness that, especially live, but I hope also in the film.
oh, that certainly was for me, and fascinating shots of, say, some women in the niqab, if I have the right word for it, who were sort of look and then pass by it's like there's sort of a taboo that's being played out publicly, and maybe other people are riveted, but they're not quite, willing or able to um, confront it or deal with it. So there's so much going on that we as viewers of the film are engaged by. Excuse me. I I'm sure everyone who's seen the film now is wondering if you can update us on how the young women are doing. Monica is a mother. Heidi, we don't know whether she got married. Majda, we see her heading to Cairo for a new and exciting future. But what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Majda is now living in Cairo. She's enrolled. Actually, she she didn't get into the High Theater Institute,
mhm.
but she's enrolled in another school for social theater, and she's now studying again to apply for this theater institute again. So hopefully, fingers crossed, she will make it. Monica is now a mother of two kids, not only one, and Heidi.
And Heidi broke up with her fiance. Yeah, shortly after the filming.
Very interesting development. Well, it's really a unique cinematic experience, I think, and I want to thank you both for joining us for the IDA's FallDocs series. It's been a pleasure speaking with Ayman El Amir and Nada Riyadh, the directors of The Brink of Dreams. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Matt, and thank you for the IDA for inviting us and for everyone who is listening.